Laura from Doggy U, and I just got back from a 6-week road trip with my dog Cool Whip for my job at Fidelco Guide Dog Foundation as a placement specialist and guide dog trainer instructor. Part of my job as a placement specialist is going and checking in on all of our clients throughout the country, as well as doing new interviews. That means because of the pandemic and travel restrictions, we hadn't been able to see clients in a little while. So I had a huge road trip to do to make sure that everyone got seen and all of their questions got answered. That means that I traveled from Connecticut to Colorado, Utah, and then down to the bottom of California, all the way up the coast to Washington State, and then back home to Connecticut. It was a pretty big trip. And I'm no stranger to traveling with a dog. So in this video and then the next video, we're gonna talk about this road trip. And part 1 is going to be all about travel tips. So talking about safety, traveling with your dog, where to stay, all of these tips that I've learned over my 11 or 12 years of traveling with dogs so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made and you can get all of that knowledge on your first road trip. The second video is going to be all about the cool places that I stopped on the way on this road trip and how to find cool places for yourself that are dog friendly. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about on this video is safety. This is always people's number one concern when they talk to me about travel is staying safe. And that means for the dog and for the human. So before you travel anywhere with your dog, you want to make sure that your dog is microchipped and that microchip address is up to date. You also want to make sure your dog is wearing tags. So if your dog doesn't typically wear a collar, but they wear a harness, make sure those tags are on the harness. As well as I use different safety equipment such as a GPS collar when I'm hiking. The GPS collar that I use is not cell phone service dependent, which is important because I am often off grid where there is no Wi-Fi or cell signal. So I still want to be able, in the off chance that my dog runs off, to find them with the GPS. I also now have my dogs wearing, and I'll link the GPS video that I use somewhere up here. I also use an air tag now, which I put on my dog's collar in the event that we are in an urban area and I were to lose my dog. Are these things that have ever happened? No. But would I be, and maybe like some people would think this is totally overkill to have like 2 GPSs on my dog when I travel. But in the event of a catastrophe or an emergency, I probably wouldn't think those things were overkill. So safety is number one importance with your dog. Make sure they have their tags, use a GPS if you can, and especially if you're hiking or have your dog off leash, a GPS that doesn't require cell phone service. We also want to think about safety for the human. So when I go traveling, I make sure that I have an itinerary of where I'm going to be and that someone or multiple people in my case have that itinerary in case something bad happens. I also make sure that I turn on my cell phone finder thing so that my husband knows where I am and also my sister has access to know where I am at all times in case something were to happen. Finally, I also carry some sort of personal protection on me at all times. Depending on the situation, that thing may change, but I typically have a knife on me at all times. When I'm out with my dog, I'll usually have some type of spray shield, which is a product that if your dog gets into a dog fight, it's like a citronella spray and it can break up a skirmish. And then I also, depending on where I am, will carry my hiking stick that's also a stun device. So it's, I did a video on the hiking stick. I'll put that up here too. But basically I get the benefit of hiking with a hiking stick with also a flashlight and a stun device that I've actually had to use in the wild at one point. So having safety equipment with you, again, you hope you never have to use it, but having some type of protection can be really good for your peace of mind when you're out traveling. Another important thing to do before you start traveling across country with your dog is make sure that your dog's obedience behaviors and their skills are up to par. Having a dog that's well behaved in public is going to make your trip so much easier. Some minimum things that I think are important is a nice settling behavior. So if you're going out to a dog-friendly restaurant or a brewery, your dog can relax and settle. A recall in case your dog gets off leash, or if you have a dog that's off leash, they certainly shouldn't be off leash at all if they don't have 100% recall with you, as well as just some basics like a sit, down, wait, that kind of thing. If you need help with some of your obedience behaviors, check out my dog training playlist, as well as Patreon at patreon.com/doggyu, where I do a monthly Q&A and can review your videos to help you solve training problems that you have. Another important thing for your dog to know how to do when you're going on a long road trip is to settle in the car. So the safest way for your dog to travel in a car is a crate. That makes it so that in the event of an accident, a dog isn't propelled out a window, isn't a projectile and coming at you, and stuff doesn't fall on them. If, say you get super packed in the car, things aren't falling on your dog. So crate is the best way for your dog to travel, and teaching them to relax in the crate is really nice. Using a crate also allows you to give them activities like kongs or topples or chews without getting your car gross and dirty, so that they have something to do when you're putting long hours in on the road. If your dog isn't able to be crated for whatever reason, a seat belt that's made and crash tested for your dog in the car is a really great second alternative to that. So you want to make sure that your dog can relax, and you also want to make sure that your dog can be left if necessary in the car. You're gonna have to pee, you're gonna have to get gas, and you don't want a dog that stresses out every time you leave the car. So work on settling in the car for those times when it's weather appropriate to leave your dog in the car. That also applies to the hotel. So sometimes you're gonna go to a national park, say Wind Cave, where they have underground tours and pets aren't allowed. Having a hotel nearby and a dog that can relax and settle in a hotel allows you to do some of those people-only activities and keep your dog safe at the same time. I'll link a video on how to help your dog settle and be calm in a hotel room somewhere up there. So having your dog be able to relax, really, really important before you start on the road trip, because there's nothing worse than having a poorly behaved dog on a road trip. So practice, practice, practice daily, knowing that you want to go to lots of different locations with your dog. Next, I want to talk about finding places to travel to. So when I have a route that I'm doing, the first thing that I'm checking is what is along my route that I can go to. Specifically, my goal is to see all the national parks, so I'm always checking for national parks along my route. And maybe I might go to a park that I might not plan an entire trip around, but I'll be able to take a day off and spend that day there at the park and get to see a really cool place that I wouldn't otherwise have seen. And that definitely happened on this 6-week road trip. So stay tuned for the second video that's going to talk about all those cool places. When you're looking at national parks, you want to check and make sure that they're dog-friendly or have dog-friendly trails. Most national parks aren't very dog-friendly, but a lot of them will have 1 or 2 trails that a dog is allowed on. For instance, if you go to Bryce Canyon, they're allowed anywhere on the roads, the campsites, and then 1 trail that's on the rim, which allows you to look over that beautiful vista with your dog, but that's really all you're able to do. So you may also want to plan for some national forest time, and most national parks have national forests right outside them where dogs are allowed. While seeing national parks is a goal of mine, it's also important not to forget all of those tiny, amazing places that you can find all along your trip. I recommend checking in at your hotel and asking the front desk staff where they take their dogs locally. I found some really cool places that have been recommended to me by the front desk workers at a hotel, and they have been incredible. So not just national parks are amazing, there's so much else, even down to little community parks, greenways, trails. You can always find something in a community that's an awesome place to explore and bring your dog. Checking websites like Bring Fido can also be a great way to find the dog-friendly spaces near you, as well as, like I mentioned, national forest land outside of these major national parks. Also, while you're traveling to these new locations, make sure you know what local flora and fauna are going to be a problem for your dog. So is this area prone to lots of rattlesnakes? Or is there dog dangerous plants like foxtail in a certain area? You're going to want to find out what those risks are beforehand. And while you can't avoid all risks, there are ways to mitigate some risks related to the local wildlife and flowers and plants. So you want to take the precautions necessary to make sure that you and your dog are safe in these new environments. So that brings us to where to stay with your dog. There's a lot of different options. So for me as a guide dog instructor for Fidelco, part of what I do involves getting a hotel. So the hotel chains that I really like is, I am a big fan of Hilton, and they have different levels of hotel and some that are typically dog friendly. So we're talking about Hampton Inns, Trues are usually dog friendly, Homewood Suites are pretty dog friendly usually, and Hampton Inn. Did I say that? Might have said that already. So that brand is really great for finding dog friendly places to stay. The other brand of hotel that I stay in a lot is La Quinta. They are generally dog friendly and usually don't charge a pet free. So that's another one. Their quality varies by location. And speaking of quality, so if my options are stay in like a very low budget hotel that might be on the dirtier side, my preference is to stay in my car or van or to camp. So when I travel, even for work, I make sure that I bring with me a blanket and a sleeping pad of some sort so that I can stay in the car if I need to, or if I am meeting a friend along the way, I can have an impromptu camping trip like I did in Wesson Pass when I went camping with my cousin in Colorado. So having an alternative place to sleep, or maybe you just can't find a hotel and you didn't have one booked in advance and you can pull off on a travel stop and sleep there for the night. So having that kind of emergency plan or plan B kind of situation, for me, I enjoy sleeping in the van. It makes life easy, and I know that the dirtiness of the van is my own dirtiness and not someone else's. So keep that open as an option, and if you love tent camping and not sleeping in your car, throw a tent in as well to make sure that you have some options as to where to stay. You can also check places like Hip Camp, which is a company that I use to find a really cool teepee to stay in Oregon when the hotels in Bend were ridiculously astronomical. So I was able to have this very unique camping experience in a teepee on a horse farm that I wouldn't otherwise have been able to have. And a lot of these Hip Camp places are dog friendly, which is perfect for what our needs are. And my final tip for cross-country road trips with your dog is just get out there. Go out and explore, whether it's a new neighborhood in a city or a new national park. Get out there with your dog. Not only will your dog get the exercise that they need to be going on a long road trip, but then they'll be able to settle in the car when you're driving those long hours. So go out and explore with your dog. All right, everyone, that's it for part 1 of this video. In my next video, I'm gonna be showing you all of the cool places I went so that you can put them on your travel list for the next time you're on a road trip. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Click that little bell button so you get notified anytime a new video comes out. And if you have questions or stuff you'd like to see in upcoming videos, make sure you comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. You have an awesome day and happy training.
Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next video. Subscribe now and never miss an episode.